The pants advertisement portrayed the woman as an inanimate object, depicted as a tiger skin rug. In a triumphant tone, it suggested that after admiring the Mr. Legs pants, she appeared submissive, ready to be stepped on, naturalizing gender hierarchies and indicating advertising norms of the time. Published in the 1970s, the ad displayed two-tone men's shoes and sought to associate them with status and authority. The piece, common in magazines of the time, employed language and framing that objectified women, reflecting consumption patterns and gender roles then in place. In an old Schlitz beer ad, the narrative exposed sexism. The scene insinuated that women did not master basic household tasks, such as cooking. In the end, the slogan reassured the husband, "Don't worry, darling, you didn't burn the beer," within the post-war advertising context. As a record of mentalities, the statement links female appearance to the volume of domestic and professional tasks, converting social experience into an aesthetic criterion. In different periods, statements like this obscured women's economic and cultural participation. In the mid-20th century, Camel ran an advertisement claiming that more doctors smoke Camel than any other brand. The strategy mobilized scientific prestige to legitimize consumption, suggesting safety or absence of harm, despite emerging controversies at the time. Published in Life magazine in August 1952 in the United States, the ad depicts domestic norms of the time. It instructs the housewife to prioritize the husband's taste, even recommending tasting the coffee right in the store to ensure freshness. It illustrates consumer values in post-war routine. As a post-war advertisement, Van Heusen's ad uses humor and an appeal to authority to sell shirts, linking status to control of the home and female docility. In today's light, it reads as reinforcement of exclusionary social standards and the naturalization of power relations in everyday life. Aired in a context of widespread tobacco diffusion, the ad recommends that mothers smoke to stay alert, legitimizing a habit then promoted by the industry. The piece ignores emerging medical evidence and downplays risks such as addiction, respiratory, and cardiovascular diseases. A period ad comparing men and women resorts to stereotypes consolidated in advertising of the time. By labeling wives as nags, it reduces women's experience to caricatures and ignores their social, professional, and cultural participation in daily life, perpetuating narrow views. In 20th century domestic contexts, the habit of organizing home maintenance through standardized kits spread, as catalogs of the time show. If the intention is to concentrate cleaning in a single set, broom, mop, bucket, and everyday cloths, the Addis wedding set is worth considering. In an energy drink campaign aired this decade, one observes an advertisement that explicitly suggested the product would increase men's appeal and guarantee women's attention. The wording caused public disapproval for reducing social relations to a marketing effect. Believe it or not, an ad from around 1960 in California promoted the sale of lemons in a bar. The piece uses the female figure as a visual resource to attract attention, integrating her into the post-war advertising imagery, when bars exploited symbols of freshness and modernity. In period ads, the idea spread that marital stability depended on specific domestic practices. One of them claimed, in a prescriptive tone, that the secret of successful marriages was the bride cooking for the husband from the wedding day on, echoing the values of the period. In 1950, an oral hygiene ad instructed the reader to adopt the product to prevent bad breath and embarrassing situations. The piece linked oral care to male reputation and sociability, insinuating that its use would guarantee female attention beyond the marital environment in urban life. Historically, such ads reiterated representation standards that reduced subjects to objects of consumption. By employing losers to label the women in the image, the discourse legitimized disparagement and mockery, normalizing disrespectful practices in contemporary advertising campaigns. In 1959, a cigar ad resorted to language associating smoking with archaic virility, evoking the caveman. It suggested that consuming the product would serve as a rite of affirmation, promising sensations of power, strength, and self-confidence in the advertising imagination of the time. In 1953, an Alcoa aluminum ad caused an impact by highlighting the screw cap for glass bottles. The piece carried the question, "You mean a woman can open it?" revealing how post-war marketing promoted household conveniences and the idea of minimal effort in consumption. Published in 1960, the ad shows a domestic party. A guest approaches an executive's wife and asks what her husband does, assistant vice president. The narrative indicates that she is unaware of the job's functions and that, according to the ad, she would not need to seek explanations. In 1974 advertising, the ad links identities to consumption and to the roles then celebrated. It claimed that his masculinity was reinforced when she displayed femininity. The text illustrates the values of the period, shaping behaviors and selling products through cultural codes. In a commercial of the time, a man appears in front of the camera and declares in a mocking tone, "Look, I'm a mother." The piece turns the maternal role into a joke, insinuating simplicity and immediate substitution. The historical effect is the trivialization of domestic and caregiving tasks in the public imagination. In a tone typical of 20th century domestic advertising, the ad urged women to adopt shiny vinyl flooring, a no-wax material. It promised to reduce maintenance time. Just cleaning would suffice, dispensing with the waxing step. Thus, it linked modernity to everyday practicality in domestic life. In National Airlines' campaign, the ad featuring flight attendants Joe and Cheryl carried the slogan, "I'm Joe, fly me." Inserted into the aggressive marketing of the era, it was seen as objectification to attract passengers. It generated consumer complaints, press debates, and actions by regulatory bodies. In 1970, a Marlboro magazine ad displayed the slogan, "Where there's a man, there's a Marlboro." The piece, typical of print advertising at the time, associated the cigarette with a popular male identity and claimed it was designed for men that women like, targeting urban readers. In the advertising context of the time, the text states that, after winning over her partner, it was up to the woman to preserve the bond. The ad described domestic and emotional duties, pleasing, meeting daily needs, and caring for appearance, as means of keeping his interest in the relationship. A period ad about automatic transmissions in new cars highlighted the promise of simplicity. Just shift into gear and go. In a didactic tone, the text claimed that the technology would reduce effort at the wheel, expanding access to driving in modern urban life amid the industrial boom. An ad launching a typewriter, typical of the early 20th century. The female image placed in the foreground served to attract readers and demonstrate the product's practicality. The scene suggested everyday use in the office and at home, highlighting speed and simplicity in typing. An ad for Drummond sweaters, typical of 20th century campaigns, used the sexualization of the female figure to suggest men's approval of the brand. The piece converted the woman's image into a seal of prestige and social proof, a common tactic in magazines and billboards in urban Brazil of the period. In a mid-20th century ad, the phrase, "Should a gentleman offer a tiparillo to a violinist?" proposed a test of etiquette. The campaign, in advertising, used the musical setting to normalize the small cigar, promoting sociability, courtesy, and consumption in urban leisure situations. In a Christmas campaign, Hoover ran an ad in print media, proposing the brand's vacuum cleaner as the ideal gift. The piece linked consumption to household order, highlighting technological efficiency and the appreciation of cleanliness as a domestic virtue, typical of the advertising strategies of the period. A Van Heusen ad presented the shirt as an instrument of domestic prestige. By wearing it, the husband would receive his wife's respect and admiration. The text suggested that the clothing authorized the man's free gestures, converting attire into a sign of command in the home of the time. A Hotpoint dishwasher ad, 1951, employed a then-common narrative. By buying the appliance, the husband would free his wife from housework, allowing her to rest in the living room. It linked consumption, comfort, and home modernization in a post-war atmosphere of faith in electricity and progress. In an early 20th century ad, a pack of cigarettes appears disguised as a woman, with visual humor. The piece suggested female approval and presented smoking as appropriate male behavior, a typical stratagem of the period's marketing, guiding consumer interpretation. In Acme's 1963 ad, coffee is presented as a symbol of domestic status and sociability. The piece connected flavor and male satisfaction, instructing the female consumer to prioritize her partner's taste. It reflects the marketing practices of the time, centered on the home and the ritual of drinking. In 1967, Brown and Williamson promoted Viceroy cigarettes with the slogan, "The best are thin and rich." The piece, typical of the North American post-war market, associated the product with status and refinement, reflecting advertising trends that linked consumption to social prestige.